Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello, everyone. Today's guest is a soon-to-be registered dietitian currently completing her 1,200-hour dietetic internship and master's program in nutrition. She has been actively coaching lifestyle and competition prep clients through Bair Aesthetics the last 2.5 years. And after competing for 3 seasons, she snagged her pro card this year amidst the show changes due to COVID. So welcome to the show, Liana Giannamore. How are you doing?
Hey girl, I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you here too. And I was just thinking like, oh my God, I didn't even ask you to pronounce your name for me. So did I get it wrong?
It's Liana Giannamore.
Liana Giannamore. See, I should have
worries.
asked. Well, I appreciate you correcting me, and also just love that name. I love that it rhymes. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Oh yeah, 100% Italian. Can't get better than that.
That is so cool. And I have so much to talk to you about today. I'm really looking forward to it, but I got to ask you if there's something you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Any rituals I have?
Is there anything you do or think about before you go on stage?
Honestly, no, but this year my grandfather did pass away, so I did think about him right before I stepped on the stage this year, and he was like my guardian angel during my 2020 competition season. So I give all my love to him this year.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. So, I'm so sorry for your loss, though.
Oh, no worries. It was his time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like it was a shock, which is good then.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to jump right into your career path first and foremost. And I'm going to get a lot of golden nuggets from you. I already know that. And then we'll kind of talk about your journey as a competitor. So you guys listening, get ready to take notes because I just know this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be asking lots of questions. So Liana, what inspired you to pursue dietetics?
So I've always been into nutrition and exercise growing up, but I never knew I could make a career out of it. My mom always told me when I went to college, like, major in nutrition, but I kind of wanted to do my own thing, not listen to my mom. So, I changed my major 3 times. And then finally I was like, wow, I should have listened to my mom the first time. So I had to transfer colleges because nutrition wasn't offered at my first college I went to. So I transferred to UConn. And I realized I can actually make a career out of this and just kind of like took off from there. So words of the wise, listen to your mom.
What did you pursue before that?
Oh my gosh, what did I pursue? What did I do? I did, I thought I wanted to be a sports newscaster until I realized I was really bad at English.
What?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And then I wanted to be a history high school teacher. So random. Yes. I can't remember what the third one was, but it was just so off topic of nutrition. I just wanted to try everything but nutrition. And then I found my heart was really in nutrition and exercise. So I'm glad I stuck with that path, because here I am today.
Exactly. It's actually so ironic too that as soon as you jumped on, I was like, wow, you have such a radio voice. And you literally were like, I wanted to be a sportscaster at some point. So
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, well, actually that makes me wonder then, were you already doing nutrition coaching, or obviously you had an interest in nutrition before that, but we're trying to avoid actually the degree of it. So were you doing that before?
I wasn't doing that before. I actually started one-on-one coaching when I was in college, actually, when I was in my master's program, because I knew I wanted to actually do this as a career. So I wanted to get my feet wet and do one-on-one coaching. So I started that in person. I actually used to bring people to Planet Fitness and train them and create meal plans for them. And then when I went to my master's program in West Virginia, I kind of had to make the switch from one-on-one in-person training to one-on-one online training. So that was my transition from in-person to online training, is when I actually went to school in West Virginia. And I kind of just winged it, you know, I just took everything I learned in school and just kind of implemented that in my training. So I started when I was in grad school.
That's awesome. I think that that's just so powerful and a great example of you can take action without necessarily like the title or the degree, you know, especially if you're so interested in it and you're already pursuing it and it's a passion, especially in like this industry or any industry. Like if you can help and provide insight, then why wouldn't you? And so now you've been doing that a lot, and you're not pursuing your internship hours, which is awesome. How close are you to being done, by the way?
Oh no, I've been done. I finished.
Oh, you're doing post grad.
Yeah, so I did my master's and internship in 11 months. When did I graduate? 2018 is when I graduated. So I'm still studying to take my RD exam.
Oh my gosh. Well,
it's just really hard, you know, when you already have a job in the field, it's really hard to find motivation to actually study to take the exam. But this is a goal of mine that I just need to complete. I just need to sit down, set a schedule for myself, and actually take it. So that is my main goal right now. So
that's awesome. Oh my gosh. I was actually going to ask you about like that whole motivation. Like if you ever contemplated quitting this pursuit because you were already actively working as a coach with an established team, but it sounds like it's something you really want to just do.
I mean, I went to school like all this time. I need to finish it. Like this is the finishing touch. I just need to check off my list, and I'll do it. I just have to sit down, take the time, and actually study. So it'll happen.
No doubt.
Wait. Just you wait.
By the time this episode comes out, we'll get like an update from you, and you'll be like, yes, I did it. I'm freaking scheduled. Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I'm currently getting my master's too. And I know that I'm going to have internship hours, and I see this vision and this road ahead, and people are like, you're already running a business, you're already helping people with this, like, why pursue it? And it does go so much deeper than like it looks on the outside, right? It's like this passion. Definitely. It's that commitment. It's like finish what you started, and also like
100%. Yeah,
that like big vision, you know, that drives us. And I'm sure that you're using so much of the knowledge and even parts of your internship in the work you're doing. And I wanted to know, like, how do you apply what you've learned in your current coaching?
So it's funny because my internship did not include sports nutrition. So I actually learned a lot. I mean, there's only like a small little section of like sports nutrition, like in my master's classes. I actually learned a big chunk of it from Dylan himself. So Dylan's actually my coach and the man I work for Bair Aesthetics. So he actually taught me a lot of like what flexible dieting means, what counting macros entails. So that is basically our approach in terms of what we do at Bair Aesthetics and what I do as a coach. So we kind of like promote flexible dieting. We promote counting macros. So yeah, I mean, I did learn some from school, but then it's more of like the experience. So it was like 50-50, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that that's like one of the best ways to learn anyway, is like learn directly from the source, you know, how are you going to actually be applying this versus trying to manipulate it to fit that mold. And you're learning from someone who's been successful with you. And you guys listening, if you haven't listened to Coaches Week yet, Dylan was one of the coaches I interviewed. So you can actually even go back and learn more about them through his interview too. And he expands on some of these topics. But I also want to ask you, Liana, like, when you're giving clients an if it fits your macros approach, how do you monitor what they are getting or not getting enough of? Like, do you also look at their food? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, so when we first sign up, I asked them for their MyFitnessPal username. So their MyFitnessPal is how they're actually going to track their food. So into this app, and I have access to their app. So I go in each week and I like monitor like what they're eating in terms of nutrition like throughout the week. And you know, it is an if it fits your macros approach, but I don't like to use that term. I like to use flexible dieting only because it's really 85% whole foods and then like 10 to 15% of like those fun foods. So it's not so restrictive, but you're not like fitting in donuts every single day. You know, it's like all foods fit, but in moderation.
Got it. It's still like putting performance, health, satiation, body's needs.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So you've talked about like best approaches, or you've given lots of insights, like I told you in the beginning. Like, I love that you do that on your Instagram regarding proper nutrition and optimizing that performance. So I would like if you could dispel maybe any myths or concerns competitors have that pertain to nutrition and getting ready for the stage. Like, is there anything that you hear perpetuated that you're like, absolutely not, or any concerns that you're like, don't be concerned about that?
I feel like one of the main things is going into a show like completely depleted because people want to be like as lean as possible. So that kind of defeats the purpose of what peak week truly is. So peak week is the week before your show, and that's actually when we start carbing our athletes up. So instead of being like completely depleted and flat, which is what people think that they have to be that lean when you get on stage. So it's completely a myth. So we have to carb up in order to fill out those muscle bellies. So in order to do that, we need to increase those carbs. We need to keep water stable, and we also monitor sodium. So we don't completely cut out all those variables, which people think. I mean, people know now, like bodybuilding is evolving. So all those like old school methods like kind of are in the past now, and like people are learning what new research is out there, and kind of just like through experience of what to properly do in order to peak your clients. So what we do is, like I said, just like carb up, and then don't cut water, don't cut sodium, keep everything the same, and like don't get crazy with like different foods and stuff when it comes to peak week. You know, you want to keep everything the same. You just increase those portion sizes. So
Love it. No, it's so funny you literally said evolution of bodybuilding, because just the other day I was doing a live call for my members, and they were talking about like, you know, doing the right thing or being on point. And it's like, what does that mean anymore, right? With the way that bodybuilding has evolved, there's so many different approaches now that's,
oh my God, I know.
very separate from how it started. And I actually wrote down to ask you if was anything you were taught in school about bodybuilding. Now, you said there wasn't like a lot, there was one sports nutrition focus really, but if there's anything that was taught or said about bodybuilding that you felt was like inaccurate, or more so, you know, based on those beliefs about the old ways.
Honestly, the only thing that's popping out to me right now is how much protein bodybuilders should get. And honestly, it's still on the lower end, even in our textbooks. I mean, even with normal like lifestyle clients, the recommendation for protein is way below what it should be. Like it's 0.8 kilograms per body weight. And that even even my nutrition teacher when she was teaching us that specific chapter, she even said, this is way too, I even believe that this is way too low. And I don't know, that always stuck with me because I don't know, but it's just the protein. It's the protein.
Yeah, like they're saying you only need this, but in your experience and from the work you've been doing,
It's
you've
so
learned.
low. Like they put it as such a low number, and it's just, especially for bodybuilders, in order to optimize like the muscle mass and muscle gains and stuff like that, we need to be consuming at least 1 gram per pound of body weight, like not even kilograms. So that is something that always stuck out to me, like the very low protein intake that they recommended for even just lifestyle clients. So
do you keep that pretty consistent from a prep to an improvement season?
honestly, for improvement season, I crank it up a little bit. So because like we want to maximize and like optimize the muscle gains. So I bump it up. Like I'm consuming more protein than I weigh right now. So definitely up it when we're in improvement season for sure.
Awesome. And then is there anything with regards to like carbs or fats? Because I hear a lot of coaches say, okay, well, if you can't hit your macros, at least hit your protein and then do whatever to fill your calories with the carbs and fats. What's your opinion on that?
Honestly, I feel like in terms of fat, a lot of girls come to me eating very little fat. And that's just not optimal. And definitely because for our hormones' sake, they just come to me eating like eating the amount of fat that I would have somebody at like 1 week, 2 weeks out, like from a competition prep. Like
Wow.
it's not appropriate whatsoever. So in terms of that, I feel like people just need to educate themselves on like, especially fats, like both men and females, like we need to find that like happy medium in terms of fat, just like in terms of for our hormones' sake, you know what I mean? So that's my piece of advice.
For sure. No, there's so many like male and female bodybuilders who have just run their health to the ground because of their limited fat intake. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to that point, there's also, and you said that you like the approach of flexible dieting more and you really stay on top of what your clients are eating as well, just to understand what's going in and creating those macronutrients. But what are some micronutrients that you would encourage a competitor to prioritize in prep?
Oh, I'm a huge advocate on fruits and vegetables. Like if I go in someone's MyFitnessPal and I see that they're eating like at least 2 servings of fruits and veggies a day, I get so hype and like weirdly giddy. I'm like, hell yeah, it's like the RD to be in me, like getting all giddy about fruits and vegetables. Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely 2 servings of both. So like I always preach, I mean, it's hard to get vegetables in at breakfast if you're not having like a vegetable omelet or something like that, but definitely having a veggie at both lunch and dinner, and then having at least 1 or 2 fruits a day, just to really like optimize those micronutrients, because they're just as important as those macronutrients. Like we need those vitamins and minerals.
How can that help someone actually achieve the physique goals that they're looking to achieve, or maybe the longevity that they want in the sport?
Honestly, it's just like to keep up with their health. You know, I feel like if you're consuming enough fruits and vegetables, like you won't get worn down or worn out or sick as easily. It'll definitely keep that immune system staying steady and like right where we want it, especially when we get really low with macros on prep, like to keep those micronutrients up in order to just help our immune system is so important, especially during the winter months as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard, you know, there's a lot of these approaches to like seasonal eating as well. Like there's a reason why there's like certain seasonal fruits and veg, and we should like try to incorporate some of those. Do you think that that's like an accurate statement or approach to take?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like just like what's in season, you know what I mean? But I don't think it really matters in terms of like what fruits and vegetables you should eat for what season. I mean, they all do this same exact thing. So it's not going to matter like what time of the year you take or you eat certain fruits or vegetables.
Okay, so a lot of people like, okay, I work with girls in their relationship with food, and they struggle with this concept of fruit a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what would you say to a competitor who maybe has been told multiple times in the past, you can't have fruit in your diet, you got to cut out fruit? How would you encourage them to know that it is okay and actually more beneficial for them than not?
Honestly, you just have to like remind them that it is okay, like give them permission. And you know, you just have to start small. Like, I'm not going to tell you to eat like 5 bananas a day or something crazy like that. Like, start small with like a handful of blueberries or something, and then kind of like work your way up. So you just have to like educate them. And like a carb is a carb. Like a carb is rice, a carb is fruit. Like no matter what, it's going in your body the same exact way. So I feel like people are scared of fruit because of quote unquote sugar. So sugar equals carbs. So like as long as you're hitting your carb goal, sugar doesn't necessarily quote unquote matter. I mean, unless you're diabetic, then I'm going to monitor that a little bit more. But I mean, fruit is fruit. It's a carb is a carb. So like you just have to start small and then just like educate them, and then that fear will slowly go away. Especially too if they see you eating it, like you're the influencer, like they're going to mimic what you do. So I feel like if they see you eating fruit or something like that, then they're like, okay, then this is okay. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
just like
absolutely.
permission.
I think that's awesome insight. Like, there's that responsibility as leaders in the industry or as people with any sort of influence. And when, I think every single person can have influence, and the more that we live aligned with our goals and the beliefs we want to have, then the better. And we can really support others in seeing that it's okay to do that too. And I'm sure you have clients who didn't know that they could maybe incorporate something into their macros, and then they see you do it and they're like, oh, that's a great idea, or oh, it is okay to do that sometimes. And I agree, leading by example and helping normalize these new or different approaches in the industry is really important.
Definitely. I
Okay.
agree.
So I kind of want to shift gears to like your journey as a competitor. Because you had a really cool, at least from what I've gathered, you had a really cool journey with the first 3 regional shows you placed first. And then you hit the national circuit in 2019. You placed 4th at USA's, 7th at Junior Nats, 10th at Universe. That's all top 10 placings. And then in 2020, you placed 3rd at Junior USA's, 1st at North Americans, and that sealed your pro card. Woo!
I did it.
Yes, you did. Against the odds for sure. So can you just walk us through like what got you into competing in the first place, and how did all of this start to unfold?
Yeah, so both my parents actually were bodybuilders back in the day. And I always remember like seeing my mom's picture. Obviously, she has it plastered like on her wall growing up. And like I was always intrigued by it. And then actually, when I went to school in West Virginia, I was like, you know what? I'm 10 hours away from home. I have nothing else to do but study, like do my homework, like go to class or whatever. I have no distractions here. Like, why not actually take the plunge and like do a bodybuilding competition? Like, I've always wanted to do one, but the timing, I guess, was never right. But the fact that I was like, quote unquote, alone in grad school, I was like, you know what? There's no distractions. Why not? So I went on Instagram, Instagram, and I found Dylan because he he stuck out to me because he was a registered dietitian. And I was like, oh, okay. Like registered dietitians can be bodybuilding coaches. This is cool. Like maybe like maybe I can like learn a couple of things from him and like,
oh my God, that's awesome.
Maybe I can actually do this as a living. You know what I mean? So that's really how it happened. I mean, my parents influenced me, and then I kind of just like took the plunge on my own when I was in school in West Virginia. And then I found Dylan on Instagram, signed up, and the rest is history.
Dang, talk about intentional living. Like you were like, well, who knows where this could go? And then you're like, well, let me just decide where it's gonna go. And then you made it happen.
Exactly. I like reached out to Dylan after my competition season in 2018. And I was like, you know what? I really love what you're doing. I don't learn any of this in grad school. And I was wondering if you can be my mentor / let me work for you. And it was just perfect timing. He was getting a lot of inquiries at the time. And he was like, you know what? This is like the best thing right now. Like I need help. So I'm like, I can help you, teach me your ways. So, that's how it started.
Yes, and you're passionate. So he's probably so stoked about that. And you then like did your first show and you went through and you were placing really well. Like to get first in your regional shows is amazing. Like every single regional show. So do you feel like that contributed to your positive experience, or were you already like living the lifestyle so it wasn't that big of a difference?
Honestly, it came naturally to me only because I grew up around balanced eating like this. And like I did count macros like before I even thought about competing. So I had experience in that already. It was just the consistency, like being on point every single day, being intent with my training every single time I stepped in the gym, actually performing and doing my cardio. Like that was something I had to teach myself in the whole bodybuilding competition realm, because anybody can count macros, but you have to be on it 24/7. And it was challenging because I didn't have my own space in terms of like a living situation. So I was like going back and forth from my mom's house to my boyfriend's house in Connecticut, which was an hour and a half from each other. I was living out of bags, like had 2 different fridges, had to buy a mini fridge for my boyfriend's house. Like who was eating my food? So it was a lot to balance, but I made it worth it. I had to.
Absolutely. And then now you arrived here, but in 2019, you had really hit the national circuit and you got 4th, 7th, and 10th, and you were getting this urge mentally not to compete anymore, but you kept going anyways. Can you tell us a little more like what made you, first of all, what made you feel like you should pull back, and then what led you to feel that need to keep going?
So what made me pull back was my backside was not up to par with the national circuit. So like I knew I had the front side of a pro, but like my glutes, man, they were just non-existent at the time. And yet I kept going. Like there's only so much you can improve in a short period of time between competition to competition. Like my glutes weren't going to grow in like 4 weeks, 3 weeks time, like whatever the spacing was between all 3 of those national stages in 2019. So finally, at Universe, when I got 10th place, I was like, okay, I need to pull back. I need to take a solid off season to just like put on weight so I can actually grow these glutes. Like that was my feedback from every single judge, every single competition was grow the glutes, grow the glutes. And I'm like, I can't grow my glutes in a deficit. Like why am I continuing to keep going? You know what I mean? So finally I was like, okay, fourth time on stage in 2019, that's enough. Like I need to actually focus on growing. So honestly, reversing is my favorite. I love just I love the strength that comes with it
Yes.
from reversing, and like seeing like how much I can push in the gym and how much weight I can throw. It's like just so motivating, especially too when I have like a trainer. So I have like an individualized approach. So like I know I'm getting the attention I need, and my feedback was to grow the glutes, and that's exactly what we did. So I mean, yeah.
So did you have any feedback on your upper body as well, or were you pretty much on par with what they thought, as in you had like you were a pro from the front?
No, I had no comments on my upper body. It was all glutes. Every single judge, grow the outer glutes, grow the outer glutes. I'm like, okay, I
And
get
then you
it.
did. And like there's a lot of things that girls get like really hyper focused on. And one of those things is like that 10-pound up from stage weight, like number, as though it's like magic. And you were 32 weeks post show. You were 15, 20 pounds ish up from your stage weight, and you still had visible hamstrings, glutes, abs, and shoulder caps from what I saw personally. So, but your macros were higher, and you had achieved a lot of goals in other areas of your life. So, how have you used your experiences, and then you grew your glutes, and now you've achieved your end result? But how have you used those experiences to encourage others to really stay the course in their improvement season and capitalize on that reverse diet?
Like the first month or a few weeks or so, like post competition is the hardest. And like I have gone through 3 seasons now that I can confidently like give advice to other people on just like what to truly focus on. And yes, it is scary to see the scale climb, but we need to shift that focus from having this number on the scale define us to how we're freaking crushing it in the gym. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you see how much more energy you have? Do you see how much more weight you're pushing? Like, that should be where your focus should be. That should be your motivation in itself. So shifting that focus from, oh my God, I'm gaining weight, to, oh my God, did you see that PR? Like, I just freaking crushed it today in the gym. And I'm just like, yes, celebrate those victories. So I have them shift that focus to kind of the gym aspect. So putting everything in the gym, like we need to grow and we need to improve. And the only way to do that is eating more food and like training with intent. So like give it your all. I want you to put all that focus in the gym, and it
Yes.
helps.
Oh my gosh, it's so important. And not only like shifting the focus from like, when you're in prep, it's like, oh, am I getting leaner? Am I shredded? Or
Yeah.
how do I look? And then it's like you shift the focus to, okay, I have to be comfortable with like some of the lines going away or the veins going away. And like you said, I really think that mindset, that different outlook or perspective on the body is really important. And also having goals outside of our physique development. And of course,
Yes. Yes.
keeping that top of mind, that goal for you, become an IFBB pro, grow these glutes, bring the best I can. But you also grew in other areas of your life, like your relationship, your personal life, you moved. So like what were some of those other accomplishments that you were focused on that also supported you in that process?
Oh, I always knew I wanted to move from Connecticut. So actually, funny story, like my boyfriend and I were going to buy a house actually in Connecticut. Um, and we were actively looking. And then we kind of just looked at each other. I brought up the idea of moving to Colorado to my boyfriend, whose name is
Mm-hmm.
Sean. Um, and, he was teetering on it. He's never been away from his family before, let alone across the country. So it was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, and he looked at me, he was like, let's just do it. And I was like,
Wow.
really? And he's like, yeah, let's go. So literally a month later, we just packed up all of our stuff and drove his Jeep across the country. And that was my highlight of 2020. Like, yes, we moved and then Corona happened, but like the fact that we're here, like in the mountains, we've never visited Colorado before. Like we just knew the state was for us because
Yeah.
of the mountains, and then like we love the snow. Like I'm such a weirdo and I'd rather winter over summer. Just because I love to ski, he loves to snowboard, and
Wow.
just like the whole outdoorsy feel of this state. So like that was a big thing for both of us to do in 2020, and I'm happy we just like took the plunge and just did it, you know.
That is so amazing. That's an area me and my boyfriend have been looking at as well for a while, and we've never been, and we've always been like, oh, that would be like, it just looks so beautiful. And we're considering other places as well, but I think it's just really cool that you guys just had that moment of let's just go on this adventure and try it out. So where in Colorado did you end up going, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so we're in Boulder. So we knew we didn't want to live in Denver because we don't really like, I mean, I know Boulder is a city as well, but like not as city-like as
Yeah.
Denver. I mean, if I could choose, I would love to live like in a ski town like Breckenridge or Vail or Aspen, but holy crap, that is a fortune a month. So, unless you're making hella money, that's going to be on the back burner. But yeah, we live in Boulder and we love it.
Oh, that's amazing. And you guys are really outdoorsy. That's something even recently you were talking about, like, oh, I didn't really like, you love competing so much. And then you're reminded, oh, yeah, I also really like being outdoors and embracing that side of me too.
Yes, that was so hard for me because as a competitor, you try to conserve as much energy as you can. And honestly, even going outside was so exhausting for me. It's so awful to say,
I know.
but like that's just the harsh reality of competing. You know, I mean, I could have like gone outside if I wanted to. It's just like my couch sounded a little bit more uh what's the word I'm looking for? It just sounded more appealing to me
Yeah.
at the time. So I'm happy to be
Oh,
back outside now.
that's awesome. Again, something to look forward to and something, to just recognize as important in your life, and you have, and now you get to do it again, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's just in time for ski season coming up, right?
Yes, yes, my favorite. It's
Good.
actually going to snow this weekend, so I'm
Oh,
excited.
seriously?
Yeah, it's going to snow on Sunday.
The weather can be pretty up and down there though, right?
Oh my gosh, it's like one day it's like 70, the next day it's 30. It's
Oh,
wild.
that's so crazy. Well,
I know.
I was wondering if moving impacted your path to in your like degree program or in your internship. Like, did you have to find a new placement or anything like that?
So I did all my internship stuff while I was in my master's program in West Virginia. So that was a combined program where I did my master's classes and I did my internship all in 11 months. So I did all of
Oh,
that when
I
I was in
see.
West Virginia. Yeah, so I mean the school like provided all my rotations and stuff for me. So I mean it's been a solid 2 years now since then.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, you mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier. Sorry, I'm like
No,
putting the
it's
puzzle
okay.
pieces together. So,
Yeah.
okay, well that's really cool, and I'm glad that you're now able to pursue your registered dietitian. Is it a license? Is that what you would call it?
A license, yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for you. I know that's going to be really amazing. And when you moved, you also were kind of just starting your prep as well, right?
I honestly moved and a week later I started prep. So it was hard because I didn't get to experience Boulder right away. But then again, a month after we moved, coronavirus happened. So
Hmm.
like I was stuck inside no matter what.
Yep.
um but it was actually really cool and slash perfect timing because my birthday is in the middle of June, and that's when everything lifted for us. So The gyms opened my birthday week.
Wow.
Restaurants started opening my birthday week, and my coach was kind enough to give me an untracked meal for my birthday. So like ended up going to a brewery and just like enjoying, finally like getting to like experience Boulder. So that was really cool. But yeah, I did start 1 week after I moved here, and it was really nice because this was my first prep. I had my own space. So like I was in my own house or apartment. So I wasn't traveling back and forth. I didn't have to share a fridge with my entire family. So it was way less hectic, and I really enjoyed it. This was the smoothest prep yet.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really cool to hear. And I mean, the fact that you had been through those challenging in their own sense preps before, then probably made this one seem like such a breeze. And is there anything that you feel made the biggest difference with you actually getting your pro card? Because I know you started working with Kenny Wallach, who is well known in posing, and I wanted to know a little bit about your experience with that, but also if there was anything else that was different about your actual approach to the prep.
I mean, honestly, this prep was completely different because of the gym closures and everything like that. So I remember right when they were announcing they were going to shut everything down, I immediately went on Amazon and I bought a 60-pound barbell. And I'm like, okay, if I cannot do body weight or banded anything, like I need something in order to like sustain this muscle mass I have. So, I mean, I had that. My trainer, Bryce Calvin, is amazing and just really adjusted everything from gym life to at-home training, which was awesome. So I really didn't have to, I wasn't freaking out about that because he laid everything out for me, which was awesome. And posing was actually huge. So Kenny Walsh like helped me tremendously with my posing. I didn't even know what I was missing, honestly, in terms of posing. So posing was huge this year for me. That was a huge improvement. But yeah.
What were some of the things that stood out to you from working with him that you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I never noticed that, or I didn't ever consider that?
Definitely my back pose. Um, I have like really overpowering quads. So just like manipulating, just like even the slightest turn of the heel or like the slightest bend of the knee or just like the smallest tweaks you would never even think about, and then just like having him screenshot everything. So he's great, and when we do FaceTime sessions, he'll actually screenshot what you were doing before and then he'll fix it, and then he'll screenshot the improvements after that he's made. And it's really cool to put those photos side by side and you're like, wow, this looks a million times better. And it's just like the smallest little tweak that like you can't see, but like they've obviously been doing it forever. But it was definitely my back pose for sure. Just like really accentuating those glutes that I've worked so hard for in my off season to just really become pronounced.
Oh my gosh, I love that you just said that. Like it worked, like everything you worked so hard for, and then actually accentuating it through the posing, because I feel like that's sometimes not prioritized. And like even when you are a good poser, there's like little tweaks that can be made of perspectives. And recently, like when I competed, I looked and I was like, it was the details, you know, like I'm such a great poser now compared to the past, but it was in the details that I could have been even better. And those are details that, you know, I wasn't seeing, maybe my coach wasn't seeing, or we weren't changing because it didn't seem broken, you know. But then in retrospect, it's like, oh, what if I had done this, or what if I had even just like cut my hair different. And this one woman named Annette Mountford, she was just on the show and she gave me lots of awesome feedback. And I think just getting another perspective can make a big difference. And for you, that made you stand out that much more, which is awesome. And you hadn't even planned to compete at North Americans. You really were envisioning yourself turning pro at Junior USA's. And then when that didn't happen, you literally had like a couple days. So what was going through your head, first of all, after Junior USA's? And then how did you manage to literally throw together like like another show in 4 days?
So like my heart was so set on turning pro in Junior USA's, like you said. I mean, it is the hardest show to turn pro at, because you not only have to win first place, you have to win first place, and then you have to battle for top 4 overall. So instead of 8 people going pro, only 4 people go pro. So like I knew it was a stretch, but like I knew what I was bringing to the table. So after finals, when I got 3rd place, I'm like, okay, I need to come up with a plan like ASAP. So I just like sat down with my coach, and honestly, I wasn't even gonna go to Pittsburgh. Like if I'm being completely honest, only because none of my family members were gonna be there, and like that's huge for me. Like either my mom, my sister, my boyfriend, like they've all been at every single show I've competed at. And when I heard that none of them could go to Pittsburgh, it crushed me. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go then. Yeah. And then Dylan's like, no, like this is happening. And I'm like, okay. That's why it's so cool to be on a team, because even if your family's not there, like your second family is there. So like it felt like my family was there, you know what I mean? And the fact that I didn't even know in Pittsburgh, like there's no spectators in the audience either. So it's not even like they could have been in the audience like screaming and like rooting for me, you know what I mean? So it kind of just was like, okay, my boyfriend actually sat down with me and was like, I'm not getting up from this couch until you book your plane ticket to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, okay, like that's the kick in the ass I needed. So I booked my plane ticket. I knew Dylan was staying at an Airbnb, and he was like, you can sleep on an air mattress. And I'm like, okay, done. Got off the plane, went grocery shopping. I think it was like 10 p.m. I had to go grocery shopping and get like all my food leading up to like show day. I had to pay for my registration like at check-ins, which was the day before. So it was super hectic, but damn, was it worth it? And I'm so happy I went. I would have been kicking myself if I didn't. But yeah, I mean, 4 days later, I mean, I had to. I think I was just like so nervous that I couldn't, quote unquote, enjoy my time with my family at Junior USA's after my show. Cause I'm like, okay, I have to be on it. Like I'm competing in a show in 4 days. Like I can't do anything. I'm going to lock myself inside a room. And I'm just like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, go enjoy yourself. And you know what? I enjoyed my burger, and I got I got a freaking pizza that night as well. It was such a good time. And I'm so happy I didn't just like stay in my room that night, because I was just like so scared I was gonna mess up, you know, like I'm competing in 4 days. But that's the beauty of this is my 3rd season. Like I know how my body responds to post-show meals. I know what my body can handle and what it can't. So that's what made me confident and just like going out and enjoying my time with my family for one last night, and then just like going off on my own and doing my thing. So it was exciting. It was hectic, but it was a lot of fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to consider and plan because you've got to like, okay, what am I going to do for hair, makeup, and
Oh my
for,
gosh,
like you
yeah.
said, the hotel. Luckily, you had the air mattress option. And then on top of that, like show registration, making sure like you get everything you need in and then flights booked. Like there's a lot that goes into that. So I think it's amazing that you were flexible with the vision. And that's something that, we hear a lot of girls talk about like, oh, I really envisioned myself turning pro at this show and in this way, and I was so strong in it. And then we rarely hear about what happens when that doesn't go their way, when that vision doesn't come true.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, that was the case. But then, of course, it led to you going to North Americans and actually getting what you wanted. But what was it like to have spent so much time visualizing that or really believing that was going to happen to then it not actually happening?
I mean, obviously I was crushed, but like seeing those girls that came in my class D, I'm like, they deserve like we all deserve the placements that we received that day. So I'm just like, you know what? It's time to come in like even better. Like I didn't even think I could come in better, but I did, going into pit. And I just like put all my trust in Dylan, who's my nutrition coach. So, I mean, I was crushed for like 2 seconds. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
I have 4 days to redeem myself. So like, don't be sad now. Like you're still on the up right now. If you don't turn pro in Pittsburgh, like then you can be sad. But right now, like you need to get your shit together because we have 4 days to come in even better. Um, so like I let myself be sad for like a second, and then I'm like, okay, but I can do this all over again in just 4 short days. Like you can't be sad. Like this is so motivating and exciting. So yeah.
Yes. Actually, now I'm curious like how you felt the competition compared from this year to previous national shows you did, or maybe like what girls were bringing. Like, did you notice a difference?
Oh man. I did junior USA's as my first national show in 2019. And honestly, it was so I'm saying it was so long ago. It was only a year ago. But my memory is so shot that I can't remember anything. Like I don't even remember the competition. I was just super stoked that I got top 5.
Yeah.
And then I've never done North Americans before this year. But I do remember last year it was top 2 turned pro. And then this year at North Americans, I think it was 2 hours before I got on stage, I realized that it wasn't top 2 anymore. It was only first place turned pro. And I remember freaking out for like 0.5 seconds, like texting my friends like, oh my God, it's not top 2 turns pro, only first place turns pro. And they're like, you got this. You got this. Like they calmed me down. And I'm like, yeah, like what am I freaking out about? Like just go up there and do your thing. So
Love that. That is awesome. And during your prep to get to this point, what did you do to like support yourself and your body in getting ready, like through the uncertainty or through the changes that, were happening?
Oh man, I feel like every competitor felt lost, especially when the gyms closed, if they were competing through COVID. Um, Honestly, the one thing that kept me going was my boyfriend, as corny as that sounds. Like, I hate doing at-home workouts. Like, who likes to do that? Who like that is not motivating at all. So it was like really hard to just be stuck inside all day and just get it done. But like he was the one that like we set a time every single day to just get it done. We would like blast the music in our apartment and just go straight beast mode for like an hour together. And like that's what kept me going. That's what kept me motivated in terms of working out during this crazy pandemic that we all were experiencing.
Yes. And there was also a time when you like had to cut out pre-workout for a bit, right?
Oh yeah.
What was
That
going
was my
on?
own that was my own personal thing. I just was straight abusing caffeine. I mean, I think all competitors can relate to this. Like when macros get so low, I feel like the only thing we can think of to keep our energy high is caffeine. So we just like keep consuming more and more. And like, instead of 1 cup of coffee, I was having 2 in the morning. Then I was having pre-workout. And then I'm like, okay, I'll have a Monster as well. And it got to the point where when I was taking my pre-workout before the gym, I wasn't feeling it anymore. And I think it really opened my eyes when one of my good friends came to visit me for my birthday. I had her try some of my Ghost pre-workout, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm shaking. Like I'm itchy all over. And I'm like, what? I've never experienced that in my life. And she's like, what do you mean? Like this happens to me every time I take pre-workout. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like something's wrong with me. I'm becoming too immune or something. So I ended up just cutting all caffeine out. I mean, minus my 1 cup in the morning, 1 cup of coffee. I still needed that for my sanity. But yeah, I cut out like all Monsters, all pre-workout for a straight week. And I kid you not, the first time I took it after a week of my pre-workout, I felt that like tingly feeling from the beta alanine. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could actually feel it now. This is crazy. Just like what 1 week off can do, you know, just like to give your body a rest. And that's what I was doing because I thought in my head I was abusing it. So I took a step back and just like kind of quote unquote reset. And yeah, it started working again, which was blew my mind.
Did you ease back into using it or just go like straight back to what you were doing?
I didn't add the Monsters in right away. I just like was taking my 1 scoop of pre-workout. So if I knew I was working out that day, I wouldn't have a Monster. But if I didn't work out that day, obviously I wasn't taking pre-workout. So I treated myself with the Monster. So that's what I did.
Awesome. So, okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's been like a topic of conversation lately. It's like caffeine and manipulating it so that you can get the most out of it. And you're so right. Like in prep, sometimes that's the only thing we can think of. And there were times where I was like, I would think of it, but I knew it would give me horrible headaches and shakes and like, I'm not very good with it. And then there were other times where it would do nothing for me. So I appreciate you sharing your experience so other people could learn from it. And before I ask you for some of your best advice, because you've shared a ton of awesome stuff with us, I really want to ask you just 2 questions that sometimes the listeners like it when I ask. And so the first one is, if you could only do 1 exercise for your glutes, 1 exercise for your shoulders, and 1 for your hamstrings, what would you pick for each of those for the rest of your life?
Oh man. Okay. So for shoulders, definitely lateral raises, 100%. I love working shoulders. Like it's my favorite muscle group to work out. I mean, for glutes and hamstrings, probably hip thrusts and I love deficit trap bar RDLs. Oh. I love those. Yeah, those are my favorite.
That's awesome. Do you feel like those 2 things really helped you to bring what they were looking for this year?
Oh, 100%. Yep, for sure. I just always would neglect doing legs. And then when I hired a trainer, it was like, you can't neglect because you are paying somebody to actually write your programming for you. And like, you need to follow it. Like you need to be coachable. So I'm like, okay. So it kind of like forced me to actually like stop neglecting my legs. But yeah, I love those 2 movements for sure.
When you say neglecting your legs, what was the difference between then and then what you do now or what you did?
Well, so this year I transitioned from working out my legs 3 times a week instead of only 2, putting an emphasis on my hamstrings and glutes 2 out of the 3 days. And then that 3rd leg day was kind of like all of my legs, like my quads and everything like that. And honestly, just the intensity. Like I realized I wasn't training with intent. Like I was just kind of going through the motions to kind of like almost get it over with, because that's how much I hated leg day. So yeah, I guess just like changing my mindset and just like training with intent and just like really seeing like how far I could push myself. Like hitting PRs like every week was motivating in itself. So why not just keep going? Like stop shorting yourself, you know?
Yes, exactly. I feel like I've personally had a bit of a mental shift, like with regard to legs too, because I was just like, oh my God, like I love lifting heavy with upper body, but with leg day, I was always
Yes.
like, God, I don't want to, like, it wasn't connecting. And then last improvement season, I continued like the same type of split for the most part, just with some minor changes. But when I was really focused on like the compound movements, I remember just making it so intentional where I was like, even if I do less exercises, but I give everything to them in every single set, that will be more beneficial than just like trying to do a bunch. And then now, you know, I'm in like reverse diet mode. And I've got this like, well, at least as of right now, as I'm recording this, I might change. I have to talk to my coach later today, but it's interesting because I've gotten this spark in me of like, oh, I just want to like push really hard, lift really heavy. I want to feel that, you know, that engagement. And it's an awesome feeling mentally to want that challenge, you know, and want to take it to the next level. And you're right, there's that accountability, but also it's like when you are going after a goal and you're not being rewarded with the outcome, it's like, okay, well, shit, I have to acknowledge that I'm not doing everything I possibly can be, even if it was my best at the time. Now I'm demanding a new best for myself. And I think it's awesome you've been able to do that and it's paid off.
Yes, I love that.
Okay, so last kind of stranger, it's not strange, but like what's your like go-to meal on prep that maybe other people would think is like weird or odd or strange, if there is one?
Honestly, I never had any like weird foods. I know a lot of prep girls, or just like prep clients in general. We do create like weird concoctions. But honestly, I didn't have anything weird this prep. The only thing I stayed consistent was dinner. Every single night for dinner, I would make myself a burger. I would have a burger with my bun, and I would have green beans on the side, and I would pretend the green beans were French fries. And like that was my happy place. Like that's what kept me sane. I feel like that's what kept me sane like throughout this whole prep. Was having a burger every single night. It just like made me happy.
That's awesome. I love that you literally did it every night too.
Every night. And oh, where was I? Oh, last weekend I just flew to Sacramento for I had 5 girls competing at the Sacramento Champs. And one of my clients was there and she saw me whip out my Tupperware and she's like, no shit, you do have a hamburger every single night for dinner. And I'm like, I told you, like it's no joke.
That's awesome. How cool is that? I think, I mean, again, that just goes back to like the original point of like, it doesn't have to be boring. It can be something you really enjoy. And that's given you that sustainability and that like even deeper enjoyment. Like you said, it kept you sane, you know, it was nice, something you looked forward to.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's so important to find those foods that do both of those things for you. Like keep you sane, keep you happy, keep you satiated, just like and people do, like they will find those foods and they'll eat them every single day. And I know for a fact I won't get sick of them because I truly love them. Like I truly love what I'm eating. I love what I'm creating. And you just have to find that. And once you do, like you'll stick to it and it'll just be that much easier for you in terms of like consistency, hitting those macros every single day.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I love that. And I personally follow like a meal plan approach, but I'll make macro swaps. And there's certain meals where I'm like, oh my God, I hope this never gets taken off, or, oh, this is my favorite. And there's certain staples, you know, that you're just
Oh,
like,
for sure. Yes,
this is
staples.
yes. Okay. So like I said, you've given us lots of golden nuggets, and I really appreciate that. And also appreciate you sharing your expertise, which is always super awesome. But I'd love to know what your best advice is for girls who have never competed before, and then your best advice for the competitors on their road to pro.
Okay, so best advice for people who've never competed before is find a coach that you know that you'll be able to click with. So for me, I knew I was going to click with Dylan just because he was an RD and I was on my way to becoming a registered dietitian. And and the fact that like we got on a call, and it honestly, I didn't really know what I was quote unquote looking for just because it was so new, but I knew that I could do macros, and I knew that approach was good for me because I have counted macros in the past, and like I know what flexible dieting is, and I just knew I could sustain that lifestyle in prep over a meal plan just because I was doing that in the past. So you want to find things that kind of match what you're already doing, and just like matching that personality as well. So like that's why I knew Dylan and I would be a really good fit. Even though I had no idea what I was looking for, now I know, like, just do things that you know you're already good at. Like I just knew I could count macros. And yeah, so, and then advice for people on their road to pro. Never give up. And honestly, train with intent. Like I never knew that I wasn't pushing myself to my fullest potential in the gym, and really giving myself that time in off season, like giving my body like a solid 8-month break is what I needed, and getting myself feeling uncomfortable with eating in a caloric surplus. So like I knew I had to eat in a caloric surplus. I knew I had to train with intent in order to get my physique where it needed to be in order to turn pro. So like I knew I had to get uncomfortable and just like be coachable, you know, like just your coaches know what they're doing. You just have to stay the course, be consistent, and just honestly train with intent. Like that's the number one thing that helped me on my road to pro, was training with intent.
Love that. I appreciate you sharing that so much. And it's clear that that had a massive impact on your own journey and your success as well. And like I said, everything you shared has been amazing. And I want other people to be able to reach out to you, maybe even work with you, or at least just tag you as they listen or after with their main takeaways. So can you share where they can connect with you and maybe even where they can work with you?
Yeah. So honestly, the best place to reach me is going to be Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Liana Giannamore _ IFBB Pro. But yeah, and then just like from there, you can either DM me or there's like an email button. But yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll make sure I put that in the show notes for all of you guys to be able to click and visit. By the way, there are episode timestamps for every single episode. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, when was Liana talking about the fruits and veggies situation? Or what was she talking about with Kenny or with her move across the country? Like, you'll be able to see all of those stamps and know exactly when to go back and listen to that part. So make sure you check that out. That's always on celestial.fit/podcast, along with all the athletes' links. And ways you can connect, and then the full show notes as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to another episode, sharing it, reviewing, subscribing. It goes a long way. It means a lot to me. And Liana, thank you so much for your time and for coming on.
Oh, of course. It was so much fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are the world while you're listening to this